Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I'd love for you to subscribe because we do some really interesting readings with this amazing Lenormand deck. Now, for this reading, I would like us to focus into those of you who are wanting to be in a relationship and there is someone that you have in mind and you are wondering if this is the right person for you. So are you meant to be together? Now, when we approach such a question, we can approach it in a few different ways. Two of them sort of stand out for me. One of them is really about pairing up for life, that idea of a soulmate, that idea of really finding the right person for you, and that's the person you pair up with for a long, long time. Or you may not be in that mindset, but you are wanting to be in a relationship with this person and you're approaching it from a shorter term perspective. You're not really thinking about the soulmate element. You're interested in this person and you're wondering if you are meant to be together, at least for some time ahead. So it really depends on what you have in mind. The cards will speak to you either way, and that is totally fine. So as you can see here, I've got 4 stones. I've got Carnelian, Brandberg, Rose Quartz, and Serpentine. And for this reading, I want us to deal another 4 times 9 card portraits because I want a portrait for this reading. I want a bit more detail for each of the readings, and we're gonna divide up the cards, so we're using just one deck, which means that all the cards are gonna be used across all of the different readings. So some are gonna be positive, some are gonna be negative, but it also depends on how the cards are configured in the layout. But I want the whole deck, and I also want quite a bit of detail per readings. And so I feel that the 9 card portrait is ideal and it divvies up nicely across the deck. So with this said, let's start with our preliminary preparations. My deck is shuffled. I'm just shuffling it a bit more and I'm gonna deal 4 times 9 cards. And while I do this, you might want to tune into the stone you want to align with for this reading. All right, here are our 4 piles of 9 cards, and we are going to start with the Carnelian reading. Check out the description box for the timestamps. You'll find them listed in there so that you can go directly to the reading you're aligning with. All right, here we are with the Carnelian group. I have got the 9 cards that we dealt initially, and I'm going to keep them in this order, and I'm going to deal out the 9 cards. All right, now this is a pretty clear reading. I am seeing that this is not the person for you. And the reason is not only because of the child that is in the center here, but the child is also helped by this very important diagonal that brings up a couple of challenging cards. But what is really, really beautiful from this line, or from this line that I'm looking at and in this portrait, we have a beautiful new beginning and a wish fulfillment that comes through. So I do feel that the message here is really a blessing because it is telling you that this is not the right person, but that there is a right person that is going to come through. So let's put this whole portrait together. Starting with the first diagonal, we've got the lily, child, and house. Now this is a very beautiful line for those of you who are wanting a family, who are wanting a family life and wanting to pair up for the longer term. So the lily is the card of the life and lifetime. So clearly it being on the first card of the portrait, this is probably what you want. You are wanting a family, you're wanting someone to settle with. And then we see the child and the home, the house together. So this is obviously about home and family and probably children. So with that in mind, what we're seeing in the second diagonal is that you will want to turn away from this present relationship or the relationship that you have in mind because it does not seem to be the right one for you. So with the whip, it doesn't really take off. And with the snake, even if it did take off, you're probably going to quickly find that this isn't right for you. So you're going to want to turn away towards something new. And I really appreciate the clarity here. So if you are totally aligned with this reading, then I believe that you can take advantage of this message so that you align with your higher good. So this is a really positive and supportive message coming through here to help us make the right choices. Now let's look at the columns. We start with the one on the left. We've got the lily, fox, and whip. This can point to something that you went through in the past. Perhaps this was a disappointment or someone disappointed you. The fox and whip can point to things like cheating in relationships and, just this level of problems, let's say, in relationships. So maybe you're coming from a space where you have that thing lingering, but it's very nice to see that we've got the star, child, and fish, because this is an all-around wish fulfillment, healing combination, and it also has a very positive element for prosperity. So we've got the fish in here, and this can mean that you're in for a new phase of abundance. And abundance is not just about money. Abundance is in every area of life. It's the idea of being open to receive and really just welcoming your good flowing through into your life. And when we've got the child in the middle of this and along with the star, then I really feel that you are going to open up to this. You are faithful, you trust your higher self, you trust your path, you know that this is going to be good for you. So it is a real blessing to be willing to move on. It is a real blessing to be willing to accept that this may not be the right thing for you and to trust that something else and something better is ahead for you. So this is a very, very beautiful message. And in the right-hand side column, we have again the idea of moving away from the current relationship or changing your mind about this, because we've got the snake, letter, and house. Now, there's many ways we can read this line. It can mean a number of things, of course, but we are focusing on this question. We are focusing on the context of whether this is the right relationship for you, if you two are meant to be together. And because of the snake and letter, the answer is probably no. And this is where it feeds back into the child and the idea that something new and better is at hand for you. And with the house in this line, it probably points to the idea of it being suited for the family life that you are wanting, as we saw in the first diagonal. And it's also possible that it's just a more mundane interpretation, that you are going to announce that you let go, or possibly both of you part. There is some kind of communication here that points to the idea that this needs to basically fall through and that you need to go your own way. But I do feel that it's the first interpretation that's more relevant to this spirituality that is at play here, the idea of knowing that this isn't what's right for you and trusting that something better is ahead for you. And so I feel that it really comes down to you pairing up with someone in order to have a family with them or to share this life with them over the long term. So for you, this is what's key. And when you're going to consider whether a person is suited for you, it's really suited for you for this goal. They might be nice, they might be someone you can get along with, but given what you want out of life for a relationship for yourself, then this might not be the best option. Now let's turn to the rose. We've got the lily, star, and snake. Now this is a beautiful combination despite the snake. What is really nice about it is that you have a lot of wisdom and you have a very strong sense of guidance and a strong sense of trust. So you know that it's in your best interest to turn away from this, and I think you're going to do it, and you follow that sense of conviction. So in a way, it's really not hard because you have that much awareness and you are really following your path and following the signs along your path. I think you're moving in alignment with life, so it should really feel good for you. So there is wisdom that comes through here with the snake. And then we've got the fox, child, and letter. Now this is an interesting combination. You are ready to take some steps forward. You might have an invitation, and this can probably lead to a new door that opens where you meet this new person. The fox can be a bit of a suspicious card, and what can be at play here is that you're a little bit suspicious moving forward. It could mean that you want to maybe test the other person, or there is that transition or that initial phase where when you're moving into something new, you're a bit more guarded because you want to make sure that this is the right thing for you before you commit or before you even express that. And also this middle row T crosses the column here, so it could be that in the wake of the disappointment that we saw, you're able to move into this new beginning. And the letter here is interesting because it's a card of communications. So you might want to interact more, welcome invitations, send out invitations, like being a little bit more active with communication so that you can open these doors, these new doors for you. That's also a strong possibility. Now, another interesting line here is the whip, fish, and house. Now, if I were to take this outside of this context, I would say that here there are some financial troubles around the home, maybe home expenses, family expenses. But in this context, it's really more about long-term security and the idea that you are wanting to be with someone for the longer term. So it's possible that financial security and other practicalities in this area come into play. And of course, the whip is one of those challenging cards, right? So you want to make sure that what you're doing is not going to be problematic for the long term. And I would say because of the fish in this context and also next to the house, especially next to the house, we do have the idea of, you know, assets, security, financial foundations, and similar practical foundations. And if there had been problems for you in the past, then this is definitely something you want to look at before you build on. So I would say also look at your sense of security, your financial foundations, and what you would be bringing to the relationship. At the end of the day, if you want a family or if you want something sound for the longer term, then these things also need to be in place, right? So have a look at this, see if this makes any sense for you. And I mean, all of it contributes well to creating a life of security in a comfortable relationship, in a happy home, etc. Right? The different pieces need to come together. So I do think this is a good message. So overall, I'm happy to say that this portrait is pretty clear in guiding us that this may not be what's meant for you. It could be something for the short term, or maybe, you know, a friendship or something good. I'm not saying it doesn't have any potential whatsoever, but I am really guided by this very key line here, which is the first diagonal, which seems to be telling us that you want something more serious, something almost a family, if not straight up, you want a family and everything that goes with it. And so given that, that's where we're seeing, you know, how all the other combinations are coming through to tell us that this may not be the right relationship for you for this goal. So let me know how you resonate with this. Let me know what you feel about the other person. If you have any questions, by all means, put them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. And before I let you go, I want to remind you that I have links for you in the description box for you to check out resources about Lenormand. I'd love for you to check them out. And I want to say thank you so much for tuning into this reading, and I am so looking forward to our next one together. And here we are with the Brandberg group. Now I have our 9 cards, the ones we dealt initially, and I am going to keep them in this order and just deal them into the 9 card portrait. So here we go. All right, now this is a very, very clear portrait. We've got the coffin right in the center of all this. And on top of that, we have the scythe next to it. And what's really amazing is that we have the man and the dog. So what I'm seeing here, just straight up, without going into the details of the combinations, is that this is a person who's more of a friend than a partner. And I'm not saying that he's a man. You could be the man. That's also possible. And so this is the key that's coming through the dog and the flowers as well. And of course, the powerful scythe and coffin combination. So very obvious to me, just right off the bat, that this is not it, but that this person is more of a friend. So let's bring this portrait together into a bigger picture, or a deeper, more detailed picture. So the first diagonal is the man, coffin, and flowers. And it could be that this person had been away for some time and then they come back in the picture. Maybe you had been going through a time apart, you really didn't have an opportunity to pair up or to get together, but the flower suggests that there will be an opportunity. However, when this opportunity comes through, I think you realize that it's not going to be the relationship. Maybe as you get to know this person, you find out that it's not really what you thought they would be. It's not really what you thought the relationship can be about. So you're probably going to have a change of heart. So we see the cross, coffin, and moon, which is very telling that this is not it. The cross is about difficult decisions or regret, you know, a bit of a burden here. And the coffin and moon can mean the end of a phase because of the moon phases. So when I see it next to the coffin, I tend to see that aspect of the moon, you know, coming full circle and closing. And with the cross here, which can be a bit of a difficult, sometimes a challenging card, a bit of regret, I do feel that you let go. Maybe you're a little bit disappointed that this is not what you thought they were. Still, it's really good that we're getting these messages, because that is part of the process of redirecting yourself towards what is aligned with you. Now let's look at the columns. We've got the man, scythe, and cross. Now this too is another challenging combination where it can be a straight up separation, and we're going to see it T-crosses the central row here, which is very obviously an ending. So maybe there's a shock, you know, that comes through because of the scythe and cross. Maybe you're shocked to discover this is what they are, this is who they are, this is something that you didn't expect. And I think this resonates well with what we just saw through the two diagonals. Now in the second column, we have another clear indication of an ending. We've got the ship, coffin, and dog. So I do feel that this is the end of the journey, because we've got the coffin coming after the ship. And then we've got the dog on the other side of the coffin, which suggests a separation from this person. So again, this is another clear indication of this not being it, and probably an ending to the relationship. Like perhaps you could maintain a friendship possibly through the bottom row and this column here, but in terms of any hope for it being like the person you pair up with as a partner, I don't think so at all. I think it's very clear. So we've got the moon, anchor, and flowers, which is actually a really supportive combination. So I don't think that this has to end negatively. It could end very positively, or you could agree that this isn't it and it's fine, like it's really smooth to transition out of the hope. And it's very possible that you maintain a really good friendship, because the anchor is a card of support and reliability. It's really good with friends. And with the flowers, it's also very supportive, as it is with the moon. And the moon is really soft, actually, so is the flowers. So I really feel that you transition out of this hope in a really calm and easy way. And it's very possible that both of you agree that this is not what you thought it might be. This is not really the partnership that either of you are after. So that's a really good and probably a relieving sign as well. Now let's turn to the rows. We've got the man, ship, and moon. So this can mean the phase where you're discovering or you're learning about each other, and it seems to be pretty smooth. It does seem like this is an easygoing relationship. However, we do see the scythe, coffin, and anchor, which is a definite ending here. There's no two ways about this. And you might also want to not let this drag. So if you already know that this isn't it, then transition out of it soon, because both of you need to be free from expectations so that you can attract the right person to you. So clearly this is not it. And then we have the cross, dog, and flowers, which is another very supportive line that suggests a very positive friendship. We've got the dog, which is the card of friendships, not close relationships. And with the flowers, it's really kind and friendly. So I really think that this is someone who can be a really good friend. And with the cross here, it can point to the decision or the realization that this person is not really the partner for you, though they can be a really good friend. So overall, this portrait is a real no-brainer. It is very clear what the message is. This is not the right partnership. This can be a good friendship, but this is not the right partnership. And what's really nice about this is, aside from the very loud and clear message, is that you transition out of this smoothly. So I'm not seeing that this is so painful for you that you get stuck in it. And no, it's not that. It doesn't seem to be that at all. It seems that you just realize that this person is not it, and it's better to approach this as a friendship and then move on to something else. And it's very likely that they feel the same way. So it's like there's this mutual understanding that doesn't affect you, at least really not for long. And also, I really appreciate the clarity of the portrait, but I also feel that this is the clarity that you are going to have about this relationship, which is great because it means you can move on to something else and pursue your highest good. So let me know how you feel about this portrait. Are you disappointed, or do you feel that you can readjust and, be excited again to discover new people and open new doors? Leave me your comments. I'd love to read them. And before I let you go, I just want to remind you that I have lots of links for you in the description. So go ahead and check them out so you can find out everything I offer around this amazing Lenormand practice. So thanks again for tuning into this reading, and I am so looking forward to our next one together. And here we are with the Rose Quartz group. I've got the 9 cards that we dealt earlier, and I'm going to keep them in this order, and I'm going to deal out the 9-card portrait. This is a lovely portrait, folks. I do think that it's pointing to a yes. There are some things to negotiate, but I do think that in general, this does seem to be on the right track. We do have the ring, we have the book, and we have the clover, especially that it's in the first diagonal, and we do have the key at the top here. There is the tricky clouds in the context of this line here, which has the road. And what's also interesting is that we have the woman right in the center of the portrait. The woman can represent you, or she can represent your partner. So let us weave these combinations together and draw the story out of the portrait. In the first diagonal here, we've got the bird, woman, and clover. This is a very beautiful line, especially because of the clover, really. And the bird at the top here can be exciting. It is sometimes a bit anxious, but it's also exciting, and it's vocal and expressive. And with the clover here, it is very much a positive line. It points to luck and probably a sense of destiny. The idea of being meant to be can be brought by the clover. So I do think this is a lovely line. The second diagonal is a bit tricky because we've got the clouds with the road. Now the clouds and road can mean a challenging path ahead. It can mean a bit of a bumpy ride. But because there's the woman between them, it's possible that the woman is thinking about this, or, it is still something that's in the works. So the idea of wanting to pair up with this person or wanting to commit to them, whether it's for the longer term or for the next phase, it could be something that they're thinking about. And we do see it in this column as well, because we've got the bird, ring, and clouds. And when we've got the clouds and ring together, usually it can be a challenging relationship, but in this context, and because of the lovely clover in the line, I do think that it is more about thinking more deeply about whether this relationship is the one that's meant to be. And what's interesting is that we also have the bird, which is a vocal card, which is all about talking, discussing, and just being expressive in general. And so with the ring and clouds, it could be about nervousness, about maybe asking to commit or asking to pair up. There could be some anxiety or tension around the relationship and how to approach it. So it could be that someone is just stressed about it, or maybe shy, just a bit anxious about how to move more deeply into this relationship. I do think, though, that this can tie into a proposal, because the ring and book together are a proposal, usually of marriage. And we see that it T-crosses this column here. So it could be that the person is really anxious about asking you to be in this relationship. Or it could be that you are anxious to ask this person to be in this relationship. It can go both ways. But we see that it continues to T-cross here, and we've got the road, book, and clover. And that is a beautiful combination of maybe a bit of unknown, but very lucky. This could be the right path ahead, and you could figure it down the line as well. I do think that the clover lightens all of this up, and it's a very, very beautiful combination. And if we look at this arrow here, we've got the clover, ring, and road. I don't always read the arrows on YouTube, but sometimes they're helpful when we don't have enough information through the rows and columns. When we see the clover, ring, and road, this is very, very good for the relationship. So I do feel that this might just be the one for you. And moving on to this column here, we've got the key, woman, and garden. This is a very beautiful combination. The key is an all-around success card. And with the woman and the garden, you know, it could be a very positive gathering. It could be a wonderful date. It could be something more broad in the sense that it could be the right person altogether. And sometimes some people read the garden and ring as marriage. That's possible. So we are reading the cards in the context of a relationship, and if the other person is meant to be with you and you with them. And so these meanings of the cards become relevant. And so we have, you know, several clues when we tie the cards in different ways that this is probably the right one for you. And the woman next to the key is a supportive person, probably someone smart, someone who turns you on. You know, there is that sense of brilliance, and there is chemistry, and, you know, there is life in this relationship. You know, it's throbbing with life. It feels good. And I do think that this is the right relationship. And we have, like we read, this beautiful line here. We just read it. The road, book, and clover. You may not know everything about how this relationship is going to unfold yet, but it does look like it's really positive thanks to the clover. And so I do think that in the very least, if you're not going to make up your mind about it just now, because we do have, after all, the clouds in several combinations, I do think that you want to pursue this a little more, because you could just find out a lot of good things about it down the line. So I do think this is a very positive reading. And we do have more indications about this. In the top row, we've got the bird, key, and road. The key and road by themselves are a lovely combination that suggests this is the right path. You know, keep going in the right direction. You're about to unlock potential. And the bird here can be a bit anxious, but I do think you want to move forward. And you might also want to communicate a bit more. I know there could be some complications around this, but, you know, think about it and work it, because you're going to unlock it. You know, and I do think this is great, and it does lead to the desired path. So a very positive reading here as well. And of course, we read the ring and the book, which we said is a combination of a proposal, classically of marriage, definitely of that in this context, or something at that level, of course. And, you know, with the woman, this is a relationship context, very clearly highlighted by the woman right in the center. So again, this is another very positive combination. And finally, we've got the clouds, garden, and clover. Even though the clouds can be a bit complicated or cause a bit of tension, I do think this is very, very positive thanks to the clover on the other side of the line. And we saw that this bottom row T crosses this one, and we said earlier in this column that there could be a date or an opportunity to be with this person. And we see that despite your initial anxiety or maybe some initial tension just in general, it does work out really, really beautifully. So overall, this is a really nice portrait. I do think the main message is that yes, this is meant to be, though there is a bit of a there's a bit of a complication or tension or nervousness. And, you know, it could be nervousness in a good way, like, you know, butterflies in your stomach or just so excited. And, you know, that could be what's at play. But what's also at play is that you want this to unfold a little bit. So it's okay for it to take just a bit of time. And it's also okay to enjoy a bit of mystery. So as you get to know this person, as you get closer to them, you know, a bit of mystery, a bit of suspense, you know, might be fun. And this could also be what's coming through the bird in the context and the clouds as well. And what's nice is that the clouds can also suggest reciprocity. So in the same way that, you know, you're nervous about the relationship, the other person can also be nervous about the relationship. You know, it's possible that there is that reciprocal thing going on. And I think it's really beautiful because we've got both the clover and the key, and we have the road. And just the way, you know, the portrait is configured here, it looks positive. So give it some time, allow it to unfold, enjoy the mystery of it, and, you know, keep moving forward. I do think this is meant for you. Keep moving forward in it for now and allow it to unfold. And I'm pretty sure you're going to gain some wonderful insights about this. And it's going to be a lucky thing, especially when the revelation comes through. So let me know how you feel this is playing out for you. Do you feel it's aligning with you? Are you excited? Are you going to do anything about it? What's ahead for you in this? Let me know in the comments. I'm so looking forward to them. Before I let you go, I'd like to remind you that I have lots of links for you to take advantage of in the description box, so be sure to check them out. And I want to say thanks again for tuning into this reading, and I am so looking forward to our next one together. And here we are with the Serpentine group. I've got your 9 cards that we dealt earlier, and I am going to keep them in this order so we deal them into the portrait. All right, now this is one beautiful portrait. I'm just smiling, you know, looking at these cards because they're so like in your face, right? Just a typical Lenormand. There's only the mouse that's a bit funny here, but I think all it's telling us is just taking more time or slowing down. But really, when you see the tower, rider, and tree, when you see the sun and then the heart, and then the heart and bear, we'll get to this. This is a very beautiful set of cards that is clearly pointing to the idea that this is right for you. The knight in the center here can represent a knight in shining armor type of archetype. It is a classical interpretation of the cards, but because it is figuring in this context, in the question that we're asking if you and that person are meant to be together, then that aspect of the rider certainly comes through. And being in the center of it all, it bears that much more weight. So I would say right off the bat, not only because of the rider, but because of the bright combinations here, that this is meant to be. So let's weave the cards, starting with the first diagonal. We've got the tower at the top and then rider and tree. I mean, the tower it's just amazing to see the tower at the first position here, because even though it can be a little bit of a mysterious card, it does suggest that your path is taken care of by the higher power, if you like. It has a bit of mystery, but you can trust that your path is unfolding in the right way for you. And in the context of love, we are looking at the long term. We are looking at the long-term commitment. You know, the tower is a card that can be a bit conservative. It has to do with the law and, you know, things at that level, you know, the higher up level. So in the context of love, we are looking at a higher level relationship. This is not just a day-to-day, you know, relationship or a fling. This is about the long term. This is about commitment. This is about reaching the top in this relationship. And with the rider and tree, we are definitely seeing that you are on the right track, that this is the right relationship. And the tree, it is a bit like the tower when it comes to time. It has to do with the long term and unfolding over time. The tree is about growing roots deeply in the ground and then blooming above ground. So it does have that sense of unfolding over time and, you know, that sense of growing roots. And so the idea of commitment also coming through. And with the rider, which is this goal-oriented card, which is the card that keeps moving forward, we can clearly see that you are on the right path, that this is the right relationship for you. And that's on top of the idea that the rider is that knight in shining armor type of character. The second diagonal is also pretty powerful. We've got the bear, which is a very strong, very powerful card. And with the heart, it has to do with the big love. And so it carries that energy into basically all the other lines it's part of. And with the stork, rider, and bear, you need to move forward in this. This is very positive. This is very important. Also an indication of the bear. And the stork is exciting. You know, the stork with the rider, they're both movement cards. So keep moving forward. This does seem like the right person. Beautiful. Now the top row is an all-around beautiful combination in this context. The heart and bear is the big love, like we just said, and then the tower and heart is this love for the long term. So really, I feel that this is potential partnership, potential marriage, potential commitment for the long term. It really looks like it's coming through here. And, you know, it's nice to have the tower because it has that sense of faith and trust, you know, and it is unfolding in a beautiful way and in a secure way. So there is, I think, mutual understanding that this has really good potential. And then we've got the sun, rider, and mountain. This is another beautiful combination. It has to do possibly with overcoming some obstacles. I really don't think so, though. I think the obstacle is better brought by the mouse here. We'll get to it in just a bit. But I do think that this looks like it's really positive. One interesting combination is that the sun and mountain can refer to going abroad, going on a vacation, a summer vacation. And so with the rider, you might do a weekend trip or something short and enjoy some good times together. You know, it's a beautiful combination that suggests taking time out, traveling together, having good times. And the sun is an all-around success combination. So with the rider, the idea of achieving the important goal is possible. And it is true that sometimes the mountain under a positive light can represent the mountaintop. So a bit like the tower where you're reaching for the top, you know, and it has to do with that level. That could also be brought by the mountain. When we look at the stork, mouse, and tree here, it can mean that it needs a bit more time. So just getting to know the other person, working through any differences, and I think they're slight because of the mouse, and being patient with that thanks to the tree. I do think there could be a few speed bumps, that is possible, and we're going to see this in the column here, but in general it is really positive. And the tree is a really powerful card, so in terms of its positivity it's quite powerful, whereas the mouse is weakly negative, so it's very easy for the tree to overcome the mouse. It can mean not to rush into the relationship or into a commitment, and we're going to see this here as well, because it's better that way. You know, you are probably heading for something for the very long term, so it's okay not to rush it. So let's tune into these columns. We've got the tower, sun, and stork. This is a beautiful combination. This is very positive for the long term. Very, how do I say, dynamic, you know, an enjoyable relationship, lots going on with it. And the stork can refer to children. I usually need more cards to interpret the idea of children or pregnancy and so on. But because the question is so focused on this area, it's possible that, you know, over the long term, you have children together. And what's interesting is that the bear can represent the mother when it comes to family. So this is something that I cannot rule out. It is in the cards and we can interpret them in this way. Regardless, very positive. The sun is beautiful in here. And then we've got the heart, rider, and mouse. And so this is where you want to slow down a little bit. It is going in the right direction. It's just that the rider and mouse encourage you to slow down, maybe savor it a little bit more. It's lovely. And of course, when we read the heart and rider together, the idea of this knight in shining armor archetype comes through even more. So that's another beautiful sign for us. And finally, we've got the bear, mountain, and tree, and this is an interesting combination in this context. Usually the bear and mountain, without any specific context guiding the interpretation of the cards, I take the bear and mountain to mean someone who is based abroad, and the tree here can refer to that in a similar way, someone who is rooted abroad. So this relationship can entail a move, can entail some traveling. And we see that when a T crosses the middle row, you know, there's that trip and that traveling that is possible. I'm not ruling this out. It's a possibility. But if it does involve a trip, I do think it's something that you do wholeheartedly because the sun is an all-around beautiful card. And if it's not a trip, then it is about climbing that mountain, about allowing this relationship to unfold. Maybe you're building something big together, and you really want to put in this effort, that is possible. So overall, this is a really, really beautiful portrait. Very, very clear in its message. This is definitely a yes, this is the right person for you. And I mean, if you haven't discovered this yet, you're probably going to discover this pretty soon. But this doesn't mean that you need to rush into any commitment. Again, the mouse is pretty clear about this. And you know, the fact that it's next to the active cards, and then after the mouse, we have much slower cards, like we have the mountain and tree. So take this as a sign to slow down and that there's no need to rush. Enjoy the process, enjoy the unfolding, enjoy the getting close together. And, you know, just allow it to head in that direction because it certainly seems that this is right for you. So beautiful cards. What can I say? You know, I'm still looking at the heart and sun and the rider and all of this situation here. It's so pretty. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them. And before I let you go, I want to point you to some links that I have in the description box for you. Check them out to find out all sorts of things that I have for you for Lenormand. So thank you so much again for tuning into this reading, and I'm so looking forward to our next one together.